今天呢，我们很高兴请到了FilmLight 公司这个首席色彩科学家Daniele 先生。那么他不远万里，那么从英国来跟我们做这个研讨和分享。那么同时我们也邀请到了我们学会副会长，这个资深的导演摄影师杨树老师。我也是咱们学会的这个马平。今天呢，我们会就这个数字电影时代的色彩科学，结合最新的技术，结合整个电影色彩科学的发展，开展一个研讨，开展一个讨论，也是跟大家的一个分享吧。我们今天的这个讨论以全英文的方式来进行，那么会以字幕的方式这个跟大家做中文的这个有一个翻译啊。So, Mr. Daniele, welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, and I know that you just landed like 10 hours ago.
Yes.
Yeah. So how you feel now?
Good, very good. Yeah, very excited being with you here, and thank you for the invitation. And I'm glad that you're looking for the dialogue and a conversation and exchange of ideas and concepts. That's really important, I think, to get this going again after this long period of not getting together. It's good. Thank you.
Yeah, so you can tell that you are quite energetic.
Thank you.
And I think that's a filmmaker, always like that.
Yeah.
And you talk about like it's been a while because of the pandemic. And you developed this new technology, this Chromogen, during the pandemic.
Yes.
Yes. So could you tell us, why you did it?
Yeah, so the development of that tool goes way back before the pandemic, but we really had that time to really finish off that project. I realized very quickly that that the same as a film camera, also a digital camera itself does not produce an image. It only captures the light. So it will capture on the film, we would say a latent image. It's not yet an image. It's just there waiting to be developed. And a digital camera is very much the same. It captures the scene energy that comes into the lens, but the data is sitting there in a file, and we need to develop this. And we saw that with the digital film lab, we were not like taking a digital file and bringing it onto a screen. We were not yet on the same level in terms of aesthetics, in terms of like on the chemical lab. So what we really wanted to do is have this new development pipeline, how to take a digital file from a camera and develop an image. And this is what drives us and what we were working on for many years. And I've been here to China many times before, and we were talking about color management because that's the homework. You need to do that framework of understanding the camera, understanding the display. But once you have that, we could go into the creative side and establish this a new tool and a new framework for developing digital images. And this is basically what this is all about, how we can develop an image.
So what do you think the biggest difference about digital acquirement and analog acquirement?
Yeah, so I think the biggest difference is that the digital pipeline by its design is artificial. It's not natural.
Yeah.
So in computer science, we put a lot of effort to take any natural behavior out of the system and make it a totally deterministic system. That means like there's no flaws, there's no crosstalk, there's nothing interesting anymore. So a computer pipeline is very clean. You type something in an email and every word and every bit is exactly like it was, and there's no change, no lucky accident, no because we don't want that when we...
No chemical reactions.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No surprises.
No surprises. We don't want a surprise when we write an email and we send it over that then the reader will read something else. So the whole digital system is completely man-made, artificial made. The same is also with digital displays. They are so linear, there's no crosstalk, nothing in there, that we have on the one side a very good achievement in terms of engineering, because we have a really very linear behaving pipeline. But with that achievement, also what the emotional side of things and the natural behavior is gone out of the digital system. So what we're doing with Chromogen and with many tools and many in Baselight is that we bring this natural behavior back into a digital system, so that it has crosstalk again, so that when you change something on one side, you will have a side effect, and that you get again this behavior which feels natural, which produces those lucky accidents, where it gives you as a cinematographer and also the colorist working with that a framework which again feels natural. That's
right. Can I explain? Can I translate into, like a not engineered mindset of this process as you just described, which is like a painter, doing a natural painting, like just a landscape with a sunset with all different colors. So the real computer science is like taking a camera, get a shot as it is real, put on the side. But you developed this tool is like an artist, basically see the image and putting some different colors and mix them, and got very creative different image and put them together, get the impression of the sunset, the landscape. So you have a very, very natural look, just like a natural photograph. And also you have one painting created by artist by using tool, the new tool that you developed, making it more interesting.
Yes.
Is that?
That's absolutely correct. It's that's a very good analogy, because the display manufacturers and the technical people try to tell us cinematographers that you can immerse the audience by showing reality, but we know this is not true. We need to abstract from reality, because in this abstract world we can tell a story, and that story is not necessarily grounded in reality, but it's an alternative reality where you want to tell your story. Sure. So what we want is an abstraction from reality, right. and that tool, and the same is with film. When you shot on film and you print it on print film, you would not get a reproduction with, like, if you measure the film and you measure the scene, you would not get the same thing. You would get an abstraction from that. But actually that abstraction is what allows you as a storyteller to be free and tell a story. I mean, the best stories you tell on a campfire without any pictures, just in the imagination. Sure. Right. And that is exactly what was I think missing in the digital domain, is building that abstraction with control for the artist.
I think there are two questions here now. Let's put one away about the aesthetic function of the camera. Let's put that away. Let's put that later. The first question is, you said you developed this technology, this tool, but it's still digital.
It is still digital, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But you mentioned you try to emulate some features of the negative film.
well, not exactly. We're not simulating exactly film, but we are simulating a natural system. So we are even abstracted away from film. That tool, because if you look at film, film, for example, has this nice S-curve, right? But not only film has this S-curve. If you look at how in audio, how a valve in a guitar amp is saturating, you see an S-curve. When you look at the tape saturation, you see an S-curve. You see an S-curve emerging from many natural systems. Going back to the pandemics, when we looked at the numbers, there was an S-curve and suddenly a Gaussian curve. So all of those properties which we like in the chemicals is not necessarily only a property of the, it's not a magic property of film, it's a property of a natural system. And this is what we like. And we are modeling that level above. So there's no chemical mixing or chemical emulation in our tool, but one layer above, which is the natural behavior, the crosstalk between different components. And then what is a crosstalk in the color domain? It's a skew when you have like the greens, when they go bright, they go yellow. That is basically what a crosstalk in the color domain is. Or when you go brighter, you desaturate. This is basically a crosstalk between the brightness axis and the color axis, and all of that. And suddenly, you come to controls which feel very natural because they mimic a natural behavior. Yeah. So it's not strictly film, but it has similarities to how film works.
So does this technology need the DP and the colorist to familiar with film?
I think if you have a familiarity with film, you will very easily appreciate the tool, because you will see very similar behavior happening. Yeah. But the collaboration between cinematographer and colorist is crucial.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. It reminds me the old days of the color timing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How it react with your
printer lights. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I think this is also what we see with now really established, at least I'm not sure here, but in the Western world, is like the collaboration between cinematographer and colorist is really important, and it also is that whole look development process starts much earlier in the process. Not like once you shoot and then you start to think about how it looks like, but we see that the cinematographer understands that for the look, it's about what you put in front of the camera, right? The set, the costume, the makeup, what lenses, what camera, but also what development pipeline afterwards. And the cinematographer needs to manage the whole pipeline, from the light on set, through the camera, through the post-production pipeline, to the display. And that whole pipeline is what the cinematographer should manage.
Yeah.
Because we've been knowing each other for a while, and we've been talking about this color science for a while, and just like you said, when first time I to get in touch with such kind of information, it's quite astonishing. Like in the digital age, we always say that digital camera, sensors, better technology, it's fake color, right?
Yeah.
But back to the film age, negative films, they now represent the real color of the nature. And in fact, there's no real color, right?
Mm-hmm. It's only in our mind, yeah. Yes, exactly, yeah. Yeah.
And also, you remind me old time of when we timing the film print, like when you're adding all these different colors and giving more exposure light, so the color no longer the acts, like the painting, you mix the colors and, more exposure, more lights come through, and the color changes too.
Yeah.
So
it's not linear.
Yeah. I think the important part, what also is, because nowadays in a computer you can change everything. You can very easily change a color of something, but the crucial part is to limit yourself to only functions and algorithms which also can happen in nature. Mm-hmm. In nature, you cannot make every function you like, and you will find it in nature. So what this tool also is a limitation towards nature. Right. So the handles you're having onto the image will never break the image, for example. So you will not really make the image broken or destroy the image, because what with those tools you will only be able to do a simulation of what you can do in nature, and that is also very important, because as you say, it's important for the creatives to play with it. Mm-hmm. And to explore, what if we move it here, what if we move it there, and they want to explore, right? Because not everyone is a scientist, and the artist does not care about what is in there. They want to steer in the soup,
play with it,
play with it, and have a lucky accident, and that is very important.
Exactly, that word is very important. I was just going to ask you, because I asked him so many times before we worked together quite a few times, and amazing colorist. But I often wondering. But again, at the time, I thought I never thought the reason behind it. I just found the routine, but the routine can be changed. So it's like a magic. Sometimes when I want something, I don't know the tool, he knows the tool. So I just wondered, from cinematographer's perspective, that sometimes when I don't know, like you just said, just staring, wish the accident, the magical accident that beautifully happened in my film. So that was the words, that was my mind of state, working with him. So now you two explain to me.
Yes, that is very, very interesting, because the digital system, when they are so linear, those resonating with the material does not happen. Mm-hmm. It's just a very boring. You can make it brighter, darker, more orange, more red, but there's nothing happening, because there is no non-linearity in the system. And that's why also many colorists still use film lookup tables, because they introduce this non-linearity. Right. And then when you grade through that thing, then you will find that every image will then at some point will have a perfect spot where going through this non-linear process, then it resonates. The image resonates with the pipeline. And this is also what this tool we've developed brings back into the pipeline is that non-linearity, so that when you move the image, that it will resonate with the pipeline, and then you will produce that beautiful picture. Because in film we only had printer lights, only RGB printer lights.
Yeah.
But you could grade a movie and could make a very, very beautiful look, and this is because you had that moving of the material in a very simple way, but then this very complex natural pipeline you had.
So with your tool now becoming more complicated.
More complex, but not more complicated.
You just mentioned, it also remind me some old days, like when I was a colorist. It's been like more than 10 years now, and the tool at that time, or we can say that for a long period of time, the tools we have to manipulate color, it's not based on the S curve. It's based on the video. It's not linear, but you know, you can say it's linear. But human organ, like the eye, the ear, we react with nature not in a linear way. So it's like, you know, for a colorist, you know, it's a very struggle process, you know, to manipulate color. Using these 3 balls, you see, we have 3 balls and 3 rings, and it looks like, you know, it's quite easy. No, it's not, you know, because you need to have this. You need to think in. You need to use this computer tool, but you need to have aesthetic goal. So that, and you don't have the right tool. You know, that's quite, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a very, you know, nobody knows, you know, about this.
Yeah, and this is what the last 10 years we are constantly changing, is that to give the colorist the right tools, because what you said is very true, that the early lift gamma gain manipulating of a signal is a video processing, what you can do in an electrical circuit. Like the amplification of a signal, the pedestrian of a bias, and all of that. But it has nothing to do with our perception. That's why gamma, gain, and lift, these are not dimensions which speak to us. It's not a perceptual scale. And the colorist, that's why it took like many years for a colorist to master it, because you need to translate from what you want in your brain and from the perceptual to this very artificial scale. But now going forward 10 years, I think nowadays with the work we've done there with also base grade, and now with the new tools X grade and all of that, we bring that perceptual and natural interface back, so you can change the exposure and stops, you can change the white balance, you can work much more with the scene energy and not with the video signal.
Yeah. And like maybe DP think it's not my business, but you know, I can, if there's real tool like this, you know, there will be
we have a different stages.
No. You know, there will be a consequence. Like what, you know? When the color is using the video tool, you need a lot of practice to put those tools under control. Especially when you're grading a movie. A movie has a film look, but this tool is so easy to out of control because it's not film based.
Right. Yes.
If you have a tool set, it's based on film look, it's designed for film look. Then even if you are not so experienced colorist, you come out of control. Just like in the old time in the film lab, a new color timer, you know, maybe he can't give you the color you want, but still it's still in the film color system. But now it's so easy to out of control. Like you see many movies, you know, it's not movie at all, right?
Out of control, that's very interesting point. Now, yes, you've seen lots of films now. It becoming very difficult to judge sometimes. Do you really wish the film to be very beautiful? Is the beauty from natural beauty, or is the film from the feeling of that moment with that story? So then there's a lot of, you know, even out of control can be used as a tool too. You know, as a cinematographer, we wish to have an accident. We wish to have some unexpected beauty come out. So out of control, is that also that you're looking at?
Yeah, so if you look at the space of possible outcomes when you are out of control, there's only a very small subset which look good, and there's a lot of out of control which does not look good. If you are but if you are in a, as you said, like in the film, if you stay in the film system, you are kind of a little bit. At least you can go. Of course, you can break every system. Of course, right? But you are more guarded, and within that you can explore and
a little bit.
Yes, well, not also extreme, but it will still be it will still be within the possibility and the constraints of that system. Now with digital, where everyone can write a small 5 lines of code and can say like, oh, I do this and this and this and this, the possibilities are endless, but then the outcome that leads to aesthetic images is not endless. It's limited. So, and this is true for the last years when we explored that. There were many mistakes made where movies were placed maybe in an uncanny valley where they didn't look really good. And this is also something we needed to learn, is what is actually needed to, what is preference, what is taste, what is a good looking image,
right.
and or what are the dimensions of that, and this is what we're hoping. But coming back to this, the question of the colorist and the cinematographer, I don't think that the cinematographer will use this tool in eager saying like, oh, I'm building now a look from scratch. The tool is complex enough that I think you need a professional colorist together in collaboration with the director of photography to build the look of your movie. And once you have that, before shooting, you can take this with you on set, and then when you start the lighting and the costume and really the shooting, you want that look to be fixed, right. But you want it to be on set, and you want all the dailies and the rushes to be with that look, so that the film gets its designed look from day one. Everyone in production only sees that one look, and this is what the vision of the director and the director of photography is. And so it's a collaborating.
Right. You're talking about on set making life of a photographer easier.
Yes.
To operate, to create a new style,
yeah.
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, with your new tool, what impact will make to the filmmaking, apart from the easy operating on set? I mean, to the end product at the end. Mm-hmm. What kind of a result can bring to the film?
Yeah, I learned this when I was a very early film student, and I worked with Slavomir Iziak on a movie. And he was so eager to get the look in the dailies right, and we went for an extremely bold and courageous look, and the dailies, when we in the color lab, we saw the basically the ungraded camera material, right, and then with all of that, what he asked us to do, and the differences were really crass, were really strong, but he wanted this bold look, and he said to us then, we need to do this in dailies, because if you're not getting the look in the dailies, you will never be able to get it in the grading, because when you are editing with like a safe, kind of not really bold look, and the director and the producer and everyone sees this for 3-4 months in the editing bay, that is what you think your movie will look like. And then in the last 2 weeks in color grading, or 4 weeks, you cannot radically change that.
Yeah.
So and that's why it's so important
they can't accept it.
They can't accept it, yes. So you need to establish the look at the moment when you turn on the camera on set, and also you need to light against that look. You cannot when you have a very contrasty look, that affects how you light, and if you have a very soft look, that also affects how the lighting ratios will affect. So you cannot really, to really nail it in terms of lighting, you need to have that pipeline with you on set. The light and and everything is married together. Yeah, that's why I think it's important. And this is what we see with like many movies, is that they do custom look development before set, and they then that they have basically one major look for the movie, and then maybe another one, a slight variation for a night exterior, and maybe give the cinematographer like 2-3 choices, and then he goes out and works with that. And then typically color grading is also much easier because everyone is on board, and then you can concentrate. Then you can reuse also the grades from dailies in the final grading. That saves time. And then in the grading you're improving the product instead of redoing everything you have done. I think that the best pictures are the ones that serve the story best. So I think you can ask, is there a particular look or color grading which serves the story best?
You're right. Okay.
Right, and because I think because of course you can say like, oh, I enjoyed this look, but typically a normal audience would not go into a cinema and say like, oh, the story was not so good, but the look, the film look was very good. But I think the magic happens because cinema is a multimodal experience. You have the visual experience, you have the audio experience, then you have the content itself, what the actors are saying, how they're acting, and this that becomes a multimodal experience. And I think the magic in cinema happens when all of the inputs to the audience are all helping in one direction, and this is where you get lost in a cinema, and you get the cinema moment where after 1.5 hours, or nowadays 3 hours, you go out and you're like, oh my god, this was a beautiful movie. Just this year there were like, it's an extraordinary year for the diversity of look. We do like the FilmLight Color Awards every year. So this was very present because we announced and we celebrated that at Camera Image, I think two weeks ago.
In Poland.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and CNSC was also a sponsor, and so and you were a jury member
last year.
Yeah, last year. Yes, and what I saw there is that diversity of the looks. For example, there was I think. One nominee, and the winner was Barbie, which is like it's amazing how a movie about a doll makes such a big. It's the biggest movie this year in Western cinema. The Barbie movie, yes. But if you look at the look is in that it is like two worlds. There's this Barbie plastic world, and then there's the real world, and how the color supports the stories is amazing. You can say like, oh, I don't like pink. If you don't like pink, then that movie is not maybe for you. But it doesn't. At the end of the day, it's the job of a colorist is to, and also cinematographer is like, okay, that's the story. What do we need to do to transport this story? Sure. And then if you look at the opening movie was Poor Things. That's a really crazy movie where they played with black and white, with bold colors, and or if you look at Asteroid City, which had a very unusual, flat but saturated look. Everyone was blown away by this look, and it was very polarizing.
Which one?
Asteroid City.
Asteroid City.
Yeah. And that was also highly debated and it's a Wes Anderson movie, and very interesting, and I think it serves the story, and that's the and you have different styles of directors and director photographies. You have ones that they want a really rough camera movement, and then you have others that have a very symmetrical and a very different style of shooting. And I think as a colorist you need to take what is in the material and then take it out there. Because you cannot really change the look of a photography 180 degree. It will always then look unnatural, right? So if someone tells you, okay, here's a movie, here's an image, I want to make it look like this, but if the colors are not, and the lighting and the contrast is not in the picture, then you will have a hard time. And so I think in color you look at the image and then you take the image dictates what the look will lead you there. And
in the contest this year, how many movies were shooting by film?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think film has a quite a big comeback. There was a ranking of which cameras were used, and the most used camera was the Reflex. So there were more movies shot on the Reflex than on a single other camera vendors. Of course, if you take the RE cameras and the Sony and the Red all together, it was more than film. But if you look at the one camera that was used most was an Reflex, and I think that's interesting. I think it's good to shoot on film if you want a filmic look. It's a good starting point, because there are certain things you can or very difficultly can make in post if you really are for that up for that look. It makes it a little bit harder in other respects, like visual effects and things, because the handling the non-linearity of film but the visual effects houses their experience with that. So I think it's a choice of acquisition medium. They are very similar. Of course, every camera has its own color or sensitivity to light, but they're in one group, and then film is a very different group.
Yeah. So what's your opinion? Do you miss the old times?
No, I wouldn't say missed. The old time, yes, I found it was much more controlled and much easier to me to get used to it, to get used to the look that built in my mind. Then it become limited way of serving the story. But now the new digital technology now gives so much out of controlled color system and the result at the end. So now my question often feels, is that really good? I can't judge. Can someone tell me this is really interesting? Is it really beautiful? Is that really good, suitable for the story? I'm out of judgment, basically. So then, in that sense, I miss the old time that really becoming the filmmaking is kind of a one particular simple way of describing the story, and and gives you a strong feeling. It was so much about the movie, but now with all out of controlled technology, then I don't know. I can't. Sometimes we're just too many, and I can't build my solid foundation to make judgment. Basically, I just do not judge it.
But sometimes out of control is not caused by the tool, but by the equipment. It's caused by the people behind the equipment.
Right. Okay.
Uh-huh.
What do you think?
Well, I had the luck that I started in a film lab my career. So after university in computer science, I went into a film lab, and what I found is that shooting on film was always a teamwork. It was like many people involved. Like if you wanted to do something extra, you needed to convince the whole film lab to change chemicals and blah blah blah, and also like the color timing, the projectionist. It was like there was always a group of people involved, and it was no one had the idea that okay, I'm doing everything myself. Of course, you could do like a small scale development in your basement if you wanted to, but nowadays I don't think I think it became easier to develop an image digitally, but somehow everybody thinks that, okay, I only need to download a software and then I can just do everything myself. And then exactly that dialogue and that team, like, what do you think? What do you think? Like that whole, we arrive together at a picture, that is sometimes missing. But if you take the digital post-production also as a teamwork and have a professional colorist that supports you and a post-production supervisor and everything, I think it becomes in the same way easier for a cinematographer. But if you download a software and you don't know and you just like fiddle with yourself, then it's easy to lose yourself if you're not an expert in that area.
So do you want to be the one man for everything?
No.
But that's about control. You control every bit of your image.
Well, it's about movie, basically. We're talking about movie. If we're talking about one piece of a pure visual image, then yes, you're creating something that purely from an image, that's something else. But a movie that has a whole team of writing the script and presenting with the performance and music and color and lights. So at the end, it created for the large number of audience. So then myself is not important anymore as a cinematographer.
So we know the AI technology coming. When we're moving from the analog to digital world, we have put a lot of things under control, just like we mentioned. And now we are moving forward to AI-generated content. What do you think about that?
AI, I think, funnily, last night I was talking to the AI in ChatGPT-4 about a film that I just seen, the wonderful film called 涉过愤怒的海, which is directed by my classmate. It was a wonderful film. I was really touched. It was lots of, as I said earlier, there were lots of very interesting films coming out from China this year. So, and I was asking the ChatGPT about if the film was made by Feng Xiaogang or Spielberg, what difference it will become. So the ChatGPT gives a very interesting answer. So this kind of comparison, things that had a one solid foundation, then the AI technology is very interesting. You can compete, analyze all of these things. But for the creativity, it's rubbish. It can only come to certain levels. They can learn from others, but
that's for now. But that's for now.
I know. But it is amazing, this little machine can really think and create this kind of comparison and so quickly. I think AI is one of the amazing things is how fast it can be. The speed of the question can be answered, but how much is corrected, how much is useful for the artistic society, I don't know how long it will take to overtake my job or his job or your job. I really doubt it. It needs a long time.
Yeah. So does Chromogen have any AI-based technology in it?
No, there's no machine learning, deep neural networks in Chromogen. I don't think there is a benefit of machine learning in that process. There's a lot of machine learning that can be used in other parts of the pipeline, obviously, and this is also what is I think the most trending topic. But I think that for the foreseeable future, the next years, I mean, it's very hard nowadays to predict because we are in an exponential growth, and we are as humans not really good in estimating the future in such a interesting time. So yeah, I did what I was constantly wrong in predicting how long things take. In that I would say, like, okay, before
Constant means like more aggressive or more conservative.
I'm actually more conservative myself. So like until we get like a stable diffusion in video with the like coherent movement, that will take another 3 years, and then 2 months later, bam, it starts out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not out really, but you will start to see.
Imagine.
Start to see that.
ChatGPT was just there for less than a year.
Yeah, exactly. And what we want to see is that the machine learning is empowering the human, and not making him or her obsolete, but empowering it. So there are many things where a lot of boring tasks nowadays that humans need to do that can be done via machine learning, and then that will lift the creativity of a human. And
That's exactly you taught is doing.
Yes, and that's with every history, with every technology, it's going there. And then there are potentials that we get a general artificial intelligence, and then the discussion will be maybe different. I don't know, but I'm not an expert in that field. But from our industry, I think what we will see is that machine learning will be used to reconstruct the scene better. Because if you think about it, from the light that hits the sensor, which the camera captures, all the way to the light of the display, this chain, we are pretty good managing that. So from every camera to every display. But what machine learning can help us is to further explore the two sides. But the display side, we are already at the observer, at the human. There's not much of optimization, at least not for us. But what we can see is going from the light that fall onto the sensor into the scene and reconstructing the scene. I think this is where machine learning is a good technology, reconstructing the depths of every pixel, the normal maps, and then once you have reconstructed the scene, you can do relighting and other interesting tasks, and segmentation and things like that. So I think that for the next few years we will see that post-production will reach more into the actual scene and photography.
Maybe there's no post-production.
Or maybe there's only post-production, because you start from a prompt, and maybe there's no production. I don't know. I think there's always post-production, and I also think that because the new models need new training data, and we need to deliver that. So if we stop doing everything ourselves, then
that's the most controversial part. To training a model, you need to feed the model the creative content.
Yes.
But if there's only artificial generated content, so what to feed the model?
Yes, exactly. That's the problem. Yeah. That's why with one large language model, they needed to find out if the text is written by a large language model or not.
Yeah. Because
then they exclude this from the training data.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Yeah. Otherwise, you get the same thing.
Like you mentioned, the Chromogen, there's no AI-based technology in it, but in the whole tool set, in Baselight, there's AI-based technology.
Yes. We have face tracker, retiming tools, depth generation, segmenting. Object segmentation and things like that. So these tools are, and we are constantly also we have changed the architecture of Baselight in a deep profound way to facilitate those new AI technologies. So we will see, we are just at the beginning, but we will see that there will be a lot more functionality coming in that respect. But it will never, I think, it will not be the goal to basically fully automate the creative process, because I think that's not the right task, because we don't want to copy the look of movie A. We want to maybe be influenced by that, but we want to make a movie which has a recognized look. I think it's a little bit misguided to say like, oh, just point to other movies and say like, my movie should look like this movie. And I think every movie needs its own look, needs to serve its own story. If I'm telling exactly the same story, then maybe then I can copy a look. But
people always take some movie for reference.
For reference, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But absolutely for reference, that's a good idea. But you never, and you cannot copy a look from movie A to B. Of
course not. Yeah. You have different exposure, different art design, different sets.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's why we're not looking into those things. But there are many other aspects where we can think that machine learning will make the human user more productive.
So there's no like specific look generator based on machine learning?
No, not yet. No. Because the look needs to also be static, because if the look is a reactive thing, it's very hard to grade and to light against that look. A look needs to be like the overall pipeline from scene energy to display energy needs to be, at least in the stage of color grading and also lighting on set, it needs to be static. Otherwise, if the look would now react on your lighting like an consumer display, when you make the image brighter, it dims it down. If you make the image darker, it brings it up. If you would have something dynamic, you could not do your work, because how should you change your lighting if there's another system that constantly compensates and reacts based on your input? So you want a static pipeline so that you can set your lights correctly. And when you grade through a pipeline, you want a static pipeline. That's why typically also all the dynamic tone mapping algorithms, they are not used in our industry. They are impractical for the creative process.
I give you an example that you both probably will give me a solution. My next movie, I want to film some things like the character imagining, which is not reality. It's like an imagined scene. So the scene I want to film like from light like this, and suddenly the lights become brighter and everything color all changed in one shot.
Yeah.
How would you do it?
I'm not a cinematographer, but the more you put on set, with like if you really want a lighting change, then it's always good to do parts of that in on set with real lights. I mean, changing, because the way light bounces and things like that is very hard to do in post-production. So you can emphasize that in post-production, but you need to, I think if you really want to have a dramatic change of light direction, change of overall light quality, going from hard light to diffuse light, going from monochromatic light to broadband light, or whatever, then it's always a good idea to do most of that as far as you can get on set. And then
do it in real.
Yes. Yeah. If you can do it in real, then do it in real. Or you could go into a virtual production stage or things like that. I mean, depends on the shot, but the more you can do in front of the camera for light changing, the better it is. Yeah.
The industry. We've been talking about that topic in China for many years, especially digital age arrived. We talk about in digital age because a lot of things out of control. Yeah, because of digital. So what's the situation, in Europe or in North America?
I think we. Let's start with, let's pick a few areas, and then maybe we can generalize from that. So I think let's start with DIT and let's say the data wrangling and all of that. And I mean it's when on the very first productions. Like this is now 15 years ago or something. When you first shoot digital, everything was serious, and you had like really people that really took care of like copying the data and all of that, and were really professional. And then because you only need a computer and a CF card reader, then suddenly people thought like, well, it's just a computer. It's just like everyone can do that with a laptop. And we saw then that just staying in this DIT and data wrangling thing, that lots of production tried out with like less professional, less serious workflows, and some went well, but some also crashed and were out of control, and so
that's everywhere.
Sorry,
that's everywhere. Data crashed.
Yeah, well, at the beginning, yes, and especially for lower budget things, and then and people learned the lesson that that's a serious task, and even if you can do this on a computer you can buy somewhere on cheap, it doesn't mean that it's an easy task just because and I think the same is true with deliverables and post houses and things like that. To deliver a high quality of a high quality of outcome and on a schedule with no errors and all of that, you need some level of professionalism. So yeah, so the digital does not mean that you need to be less professional. I think that's what the last decade, in some areas where this misconception thinking like, oh, it's digital, so it does need to be professional.
Mr. Mao was saying, talking about the industrial solution of the new DIT technology get involved. I had the experience of, the producers who were saying, oh, now we're out of lab, so everything become much cheaper. Now that's why we're coming to the digitized filmmaking. So we should look for the cheap way of running the DIT. So then they get one person who has no training whatsoever and no education, even just the basic computer operating. One laptop coming into the film production and download everything and hand over to the producer. So that was basically, I saw some of this production or doing so, because behind all this producer's mind was, it's cheap. We get rid of the labs now. We can save lots of money. So that was a mentality from then, but it's still in China, in the industry, there's still some people, producers, thinking like that. So how do you think the rest of the world, like North America and also in Europe, what people overcome this problem, or how do they make the producers, what is really hurting them to not do so?
Yeah, I think that there are two different streams where the producers learn. First, by things getting wrong, and then you pay the price of reshooting, and suddenly you realize, but that doesn't happen to every producer. luckily, because we don't want to like lose money. But then also the professional houses, they try and they do offer more service. It's like being professional and secure, and it's one thing, and that is really important. But then if you're a lab, you also need to look what you can offer in addition to that, to someone just on a laptop just dragging a file from A to B. In a lab you can, with a little bit of programming and other things, you can also make it very efficient. And we have efficient pipelines where there are also automation happening in the lab or in the professional context, but then always with the aim of providing a professional service. So I think as a post house, you need to think out of the box, and not replicating what the cheap, the non-professionals are doing, but always trying to deliver more and better services to your customers. And then I think you will have a good time, and then you will outstand that race to the bottom, because this is what we're seeing, is this race to the bottom where today someone comes from a university and does it for price X, but tomorrow there will be another coming from that does it cheaper, and so this where's the bottom of that, and you can only exclude yourself from that if you provide just a better service,
But the problem is in the film age, the film lab. Film lab is like a hub, a center. A lot of department need to follow the rules of film. But now, we're moving to digital. Camera department, sound department, editing, DIT, various effects. Who's in charge? No one is in charge.
Yeah, but the post house is exactly that. If you have like 10 different visual effects vendors working together on one movie, you need someone who sets the pipeline. Yeah. Otherwise, it's chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is typically the post house. It's more like the post house is more the shepherd, and you have all of these sheep, and they like, you need to go a little bit here, and they are still the hub. And I think the larger the production, the more clear this gets. That.
But the post house you mentioned is is which part? Like the editing, DIT, or color grading?
Well, it's the hub of all of that. So this is what typically what you see in large facilities is that they provide workflows. You don't need to go to the editing there, but they can set up a pipeline on how to distribute the rushes in the editing room. The DIT needs to deliver to the specs according of the post house. The post house is managing the visual effects pulls to the vendors and receiving the visual effects back and making new visual effects for the editorial, so that the conforming then also works. They are in charge of the deliverables, and I think this is what one of the big duties of a post house is exactly keeping all of those departments together. I'm not sure, is this in China different? Is this, who is in charge in China of?
No, that's what Mr. Martis asked. No, I wanted to ask you too. I think with today's conversation, now you had this concept of the pipeline, let's see, and workflow, whatever. I think in Chinese language, this has come to the common communication tools, like when we're talking. I think the concept of the pipeline is not really in the Chinese film industry. Pipeline. So I want to make this point. This pipeline is like a key word, almost like the whole industrialized, society that for the post-production, that you're from shooting the camera and deliver to the DIT. The DIT build the pipeline and making a pipeline to the post-production and to display. So this very important keyword, but I am not sure people really understand it in the industry of China. So what I see is like they have generally the production company, the big production house, they would say we have one producer who does the whole thing from the beginning to the end of even the promotion part of the film when they finish the whole. So we will rely on one producer who understands everything. So the concept is like one person who had the experience in going through post-production house and the grading, color grading, and then some computer effects, then to deliver
What you mentioned is more like a consultant.
Yes, and we rely on the consultant rather than a real understanding of a pipeline, which is, the concept of a pipeline. So that
But if you have like 80% visual effect shots and things like that, you need some on a technical level. Of course, every visual effects house has their own pipeline to make the visual effect shots, but then this needs to flow into a bigger pipeline to make the movie, because there are different. For example, just the color management needs to be synchronized between post and visual effects, and who is in charge of that. You cannot make the visual effects in one color management workflow, but the movie in another color management workflow, because then suddenly this doesn't fit together anymore. So there needs to be one who is in charge of.
The beauty of digital is even you haven't designed those pipelines, how they connect to each other, the connector, you haven't designed. But the beauty of digital is it just happened.
Yes, but then with a lot of work.
I think he knows what I mean. It just happened.
in China, it's more so.
Okay.
As he said, it's just like somehow, okay, you'll find some mistakes, and they say, oh, how do you do that? And they can't connect. Oh, okay, we try to find another person. Someone who's very clever, sit there and solve the problem and fix it. So each bit, they're spending more and more time. So it's not like when you're doing an industrial production, everything already set up, everything just so flow, kind of smoothly done. So that's different, the more industrial, organized, as an industry, it has very smooth flow of a production.
Yeah. Otherwise, you cannot manage the complexity. I don't think you can, without a pipeline. I mean, of course, you can manually kind of somehow work together, but only up to a certain level. If you see the quality in visual effects over the last 20 years, the quality comes mainly from the part that there's so much automation and pipelining in that process, so that the artist can concentrate on the actual shot and not where is that asset? Okay, where do I get this thing? And if something changes, nobody knows in which shots. If you change, let's say, I don't know, a sword of a character, you immediately know, okay, these 10 shots need re-rendering, these 20 shots need new compositing, and the people just double click on their to-do list, and the thing opens up, and you.
I had experience in some films, there's a big chaos, and no one. Today, the film, before the pandemic, almost like 5 years ago, we were shooting the movie. Until today, they haven't finished yet. Which is chaos, and of course they have a lot of. The pipeline is one of the biggest problems. They had one company at the beginning. They didn't negotiate it with the money, with the production fee, and then there's another company comes in and they come out and say. So of course the pipeline is being cut off. If there was and built the pipeline, they cut off and they rebuilt again. So there was a big chaos. of the film until today.
Yeah, and I mean, this is also what I think, besides the creative part, this is what FilmLight really in all of their products are offering is tooling for pipeline. That's why we have the plugins for editing and visual effects, and also in Baselight we have many things to help building that pipeline as a post-production house. So you can distribute everything very easily. You set up a pipeline once, and then we have a templating system and all of that, so that you.
Do you think in the future you can build a named pipeline? For certain kind of film, the pipeline is already software that built there, and we can just drag in and.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. But what we see is that every movie is different. So every movie needs a little bit of a different. Yeah. Sometimes you have that one movie which has like 200 little subtitles of the place where this plays. Another movie is that movie with like so many visual effects shots. The other movie is another one where beauty retouching is so. You need you need a base pipeline. I agree, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time you make a movie, but still having something which is adaptable to the specific needs of a production.
Yeah, and also different people, different.
Yes. Everyone wants to work slightly different. So the same as with color, we need to abstract. We cannot dictate one pipeline. But we offer a framework where you can build your own pipelines. The same is with color. We don't dictate any color pipeline. You can use ACES, but you're not forced to use ACES. You can use many different color workflows within our color management framework. And I think that's one of the strengths that we have, is that we're not forcing anything onto our users. And
Yeah, just like you mentioned, a proper pipeline. For DIT, you need a group of serious people, right? But you just got one, part-time people for that job, and is that part of the pipeline? Is that I think that's the problem. How movie makers. What they think about a project, what's their methodology, I think that's like I noticed Daniele just mentioned, if there's no pipeline, he think it's impossible to start a project.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't think much people of our filmmakers have that kind of
concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
So today, Daniel was saying lots of things like towards a cinematographer, making a film. We were facing all these new technology with your new tool that was very important before we had these kind of more developed tools. As a cinematographer, I was only waiting for the magical, unexpected mistake to occur. So then, that was wonderful. That was just so. Basically, we have no solution built in our mind which tool can use for which film and what kind of a look we were seeking. That was a problem, all this concept that you were, the first one was really truthful to me. It was like waiting for the mistakes, the beautiful unexpected mistakes to occur. Then we say, we like it, so we use it. So that was one concept. And then second was this pipeline. I think it was also very important for the industry to understand that is so, if you talk about the industry, not like a workshop, as pre-industrialized history of a production. Workshop as a family, you're just making your own thing. You don't have to. You just go with the flow. But now everything is counted. Date of shoots, and the people that you manage, and what kind of a look, and it's a teamwork, and you have to have industrialized tools and like a concept, like a pipeline. That's very important.
Yeah.
And also, I want to introduce you to this new situation in China, which is the short, the TikTok, the new is becoming very, very large in China now. I think in the whole world we'll soon see this great impact of the new short films. What do you call it? The
Summaries or
yeah.
Yeah, the super mini series.
Yeah, what do you think about how are we going to deal with that as a professional filmmakers? How we see these?
That's a really good question. I don't have really an answer to that. I cannot imagine how. What I see and notice is that
Is there such kind of production in Europe or in
that explicitly produced for TikTok?
no, explicit, but for those kind of platforms.
Sure,
TikTok is the biggest one.
Biggest one, yeah.
Sure.
And also they invest in it.
Yeah, there's content creator. There's a lot of content creator content on those platforms. This is not where we are typically that much involved as FilmLight. What I observe is, and I also observed this a little bit at myself, and I'm not sure where we're heading with that, is that the concentration span nowadays you can get from this newer generation is very short. Like it's even hard to watch a 5-minute video, not even talking about 20 minutes or half an hour video. And the thing we are now producing today, will this be a burst of 30-second statements on TikTok, or will this be a longer, deeper discussion? There is a place for that, because obviously we can consume content on the go as we wait 10 seconds in the metro or somewhere. But I think if we don't want to get superficial, we need somehow to stick to the longer formats as well. And I see this as also in education. We do also videos, and we always hear like, you need to make it shorter. But I think if you have really concepts you want to teach and explore, or stories, complex stories to tell, it's you cannot do this in 30 seconds, I guess, or in 2 minutes.
Do you think it will go like a waves that becoming at the moment it becoming so popular? What do you think as a filmmaker? Is our movie Mr. Ma, is our movie 2 hours long movie will disappear after we compete with all these TikTok new fashion?
I don't know. Maybe this is another revival of. Just guessing here. Maybe that's another revival for the cinema, because you go and you sit down 1.5 hours or 2 hours and you don't do anything else. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. I don't want to live in a world where you only have like superficial bursts of mini content, or like small superficial headlines and clickbait, and that's not. I don't think that's a fulfilling world, but that's just maybe just me.
Yeah. It's just like our traditional operas. It's still there.
Not so popular.
Not so popular, but it didn't die. And in some provinces, it's quite thrive. It's it's very popular, but not much. But there are, like in Henan, in Guangdong, in many provinces. But not not a big portion. So movie, maybe it will be turning into a legacy, or a small portion of people doing those serious content, and we always need serious content. It depends on the audiences. Of course, we have the duty, but how much we can do if the audience they never go to the theater.
How much is the reach of your work?
Yeah.
But then we see like also the movies in cinema getting longer and longer and longer. I mean, it's just like I was like a few weeks ago in Oppenheimer, just 3 hours, just talking heads in front of and it's well made, but it's
difficult.
It's
For the people seeking entertaining.
yeah. Well, I find it very entertaining, and I went with my daughter, and she's a younger generation, and she also enjoyed it. So I think I hope we can have both that little, like a little snack you eat while you are on the go, but then you also enjoy a big dinner with friends. Takes longer time, and you just. I hope we have room for both in our culture.
Back to the color science, I think I always aim to ask you, especially Germans who created such a major tool as the IRI flags. When I was first in the film industry, the first camera I was using on the proper production was IRI flags B. Like 3 lenses you can. Like those ones created during the Second World War. It was an amazing camera. I had all my life of my career I had involved with IRI. So I was kind of creating kind of an imagination that Germans, since that long ago, are collecting as one of the first industrialized country and culture and civilization that had collected so many reference of the colors, different from early age, from the different weathers in different, and also we knew roughly about the information that Germans, also lots of the scientists went to America. So I helped the American develop the Kodak. There was as a human we shared lots of technology and information. So we had, as I said earlier to you about a long time ago, we had in the film age we had a company called Baoding. Lekai.
Lucky Film.
Lucky Film company produced all these negatives, and I had always wondered a long time ago why our color is not so beautiful compete with the Americans and German Oval.
And Aqua.
Then later on become East Germany after Second World War, isn't it? So I was a camera assistant using OFO. 1983, there was a film called Liang Jia Fu Nu. It was shot completely. I was a camera assistant then, completely shot on OFO, which is quite special. Created a certain kind of a tune of colors. Compared with Kodak. Kodak is much more comforting color tone and nature colors, and the Opal it was much colder color. So how did this happen? Is that true? I try to imagine the Germans from the beginning of this century start to collect all this reference of colors and gathered lots of information about colors and built up all this color system that helped us to understand the colors and to develop a new, what is the color temperature, most likely for the daytime. All of this information, how deep we made all of these routines and standards.
So I think to understand the commercial, I think there was a lot of commercial pressure that you have a good looking film system, because imagine in the before digital, when you went to holidays, you took your holiday snap camera and then you grabbed a film, you put it in there, and then you did 36 snaps, and then you put it to the developing guy, and then in a week later you get your images back. Mm-hmm. There was no Instagram filter, no Lightroom color correcting. That was all built into the system. And when you looked at your photos and you saw and you made a nice summer vacation on the lake, and you said oh, look how blue the sky was, look how brown our skin is. We had such a good time. Mm-hmm. And you have these memories collected. Right. And then the next time you go on to holiday, you grab to the same movie, same film stock, because you were happy with the results. So there was a big commercial interest in the film manufacturers to make their chemical, and then also later also for the developing machines. Fuji and Kodak put also a lot of engineering into the digital part in there. It was at the end also computers involved, and they had like departments of where many people were tuning the chemicals and to make a preferred image. So now the question is, what is a preferred image, right? Yeah. So and a preferred image is an image where, in general, the observer, and in general, statistically say oh, I like this over this. And in my talk at just after our discussion here, we'll also talk a little bit about that, because when we did the work for Chromogen, we studied that topic to understand what makes a preferred image, what makes a pleasing image. Yeah. And I think I never had a look at the Lucky film. I don't know, but it was at least for Kodak and Fuji, and this was a really a department with many people involved there, tuning the colors. And it's not about only engineering. I think this is where engineering and then the arts came together. And if you only give a task to an engineer, typically the engineers, and not every engineer, to say politically correct, has a taste or an artistic eye, and you need a collaboration of both. Because preference is really also a metric which is not really it's not very objective. It's not that you can measure preference and then you can optimize the chemicals for. There's a lot of trial and error and a lot of, and you need to be willing to or accept that. And if you only take a very engineering approach to that problem, where you say the colors need to be exactly as stable as possible, then you might optimize for the wrong thing.
Yeah, and the color spectrum is a science thing. Right. It's just there. It's numbers, but human perception of color, it's not just science.
It's art.
Yeah, and it's organic. It's changing. Like what is green? Different people have different green, and even for yourself, same color have different reaction. So that's the beauty of color, and that's the hard part of color. And there's another story about how Kodak made their film. Kodak film, it was calibrated for the white Caucasian people. At the beginning and for a long time. The French director Godard.
Mm-hmm.
Godard, yeah. He was shooting in Mozambique in 70s last century. And after 1 month, he gathered many reporters from all over the world, and he said, I will never use Kodak anymore, because black people can never get right exposure, especially when they are in the same shot with white people. And the Kodak told him, that's the right exposure, and we can do nothing about it. And after about 10 to 20 years, the right exposure for color skin, this issue was solved, but not because Kodak calibrated for color people, but for what? For two major customers of Kodak film. One is food industry, one is furniture industry. For food industry, there are many clients complain that if using Kodak film, like the 100% dark chocolate and the 75% dark chocolate, they look the same on the film, in the photo. And for furniture, like those dark woods, they look the same, they can't tell the difference. So Kodak invested a lot of money and to make their film exposure for dark colors and then color skin. The problem was solved, And there's the story.
The ignorance.
the story, continues, because Daniele knows that we are in digital age, but the digital camera we have now, it's all learn the color science from Kodak film. Is that right?
Well, there's a lot. Yeah, there's still also a lot of Kodak in based stuff in the film pipeline in present nowadays. Yeah, But that's a good point. Yeah,
it's about question you asked. We need to know the tools. We need to know it. I don't know if you remember in the FilmLight. We always feel like it's very hard to calibrate, to balance about the skin tone and the environment for Asian people, for Chinese actor, actress. Now we know that why.
Why?
It's not calibrated for Asian people, for Asian skin tone.
I see.
Yeah.
Another question. Do you know how many colors now we know our human can separate? How many of those? 1 million?
It's hard to. It depends on how you measure it. if you let the observer adapt. So if you only show two colors and no surround, then you can distinguish more colors than if you have a stable surround. So, but I don't know. Yeah, it depends really on how you measure it. Yeah. But I think, because there's a discrimination threshold that says like two colors, if they are below measurable different, but below a certain threshold, then they will look alike to us. But that those thresholds depend on the surrounding and also how you do the experiment. And if you do the experiment with flicker photometry, it's different. Then
And it depends on different people, different eyes.
Well, quite possibly, yes.
Yeah, there's this small app. The difference from one block, it's getting smaller with the blocks around. And the difference gets smaller and smaller until you can't tell the difference. I always use that, to identify those people have the potential to be a colorist or DP.
They need to play this game in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had this vision test, this true light vision test, where we did the same thing, where you have this T's in blocks, and then it would be up, pointing in different directions, but then the difference to the background would always go smaller and smaller, and then you would not see the T anymore, and you could not say point down. Or, yeah. It's the same kind of idea. Yeah. So you go like in 10 delta E, and then 5 and 4, 3, and then But also the scale of delta E is also, I mean, it's also not exact, because it depends on so many things. And
one last question, and so how many years the Baselight tool have been there?
I think the company started in 2002, building a scanner, and then I think the first grading systems were a few years later, depending on where you start to count. Probably it goes towards 20 years, maybe 18 years.
Okay, so it's been there for more than 20 years now. In China, in Chinese film industry, we have some vendors, Chinese film cameras, and also there are companies making post-production softwares. It's very hard because it's not a big industry.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So, do you have any advice or any experience? How to maintain, how to to survive and to thrive in this area?
Yeah. I think where I get all of my inspiration and motivation is from the user base. So it's very, very important that you keep a very close relation to the user base, because it's such a subtle art form that you really need to fully understand what is happening in the grading room. What is to understand the pressure that a colorist works in, with like so many people in the room, and the embarrassment when you do something wrong and suddenly the image on the screen is broken, and the people look at you, what are you doing with my movie? Just like experiencing this yourself. So you need to have this deep connection with your user base to really develop new tools and get inspiration. And we get inspiration from our users when they send us images and say like, look, this and this is we struggled with this. How can we help with this? So we have a very, very good relation with and then deep relation with all of our users. I think that is one of the most important sources. I think you cannot develop a color grading tool in the dark without just like thinking of, this is how I think it should work. It's
keep talking to your user and make friends with the yes, of course, yeah.
But he never let me see all these the way he did it on his computer screen. He only let me see the big screen. So all the thing to me when I'm working with him.
You fell into sleep once I invited into in front of my computer screen. Okay.
So thank you so much.
Yeah. I think we have a very nice conversation. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, okay, that's done for today.
Okay.
Yeah.